Hey, WordPress people. Welcome back to the WPMRR WordPress podcast. I'm Joe.
And I am Boba Fett.
And you're listening to the WordPress Business podcast. Boba Fett, awesome character from the Star Wars franchise. One of my favorites. Kind of funny that I actually, off recording, this is our second time recording, and the first time I screwed up Boba Fett, and I actually went off the whole wrong character. I know who Boba Fett is. Crazy. Anyway, Boba Fett, one of the best, most badass characters is in the Star Wars franchise. What's going on, Boba?
Oh, nothing much. Refraining from disintegrating anybody because Darth Vader has banned that for the foreseeable future. But once I give him Han Solo, I will go back to disintegrating to my will.
Yeah, there you go. You got Han frozen, hopefully. So hopefully he won't put up too much of a fight. He's got that carbonite around him, but cool. Boba Fett, great, and again, one of the most badass characters. You're pretty badass too. So I think there's an equivalence there. Not actually Boba Fett, or actually, maybe you could be Boba Fett. I don't know. Got that helmet on. Never know. We've got Sam Smith on the podcast this week. One of my favorite WordPress people. Sam, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your history with WordPress? What's going on?
So I am kind of a newcomer to WordPress. Only been doing this about 2.5 years. I will say 2.5 years ago, I typed into a Google search bar, "What is WordPress?" And
we've all been there.
And since then, I've just been hook, line, and sinker. I changed careers and doing this full time. And then I launched my own freelance WordPress company, doing custom development stuff and building sites and all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually glad that you said at some point you looked up what is WordPress. We actually just published an article on WP Buff's blog that focuses on that keyword in search results. What is WordPress? So I'm glad we have some real data on at least one person. It's not just this many people we saw doing some keyword research. This many people search this. Oh, now I'm talking to someone who actually searched that. So very cool. Yeah, man. And so you're 2.5 years or so into WordPress. We've hung out at a bunch of WordCamps and stuff, so we're buds at this point.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Why don't you tell people also what have your 2.5 years, what have you been doing in WordPress for the past 2.5 years? You just kind of have now going off doing some more freelance work. So if anybody has any projects they're working on, they need a badass developer to come in and help. We got Sam right here. But what else have you been doing in the WordPress space?
Just kind of going to WordCamps. And let me clarify the question. What am I doing in WordPress now, or how did I kind of do that sort of transition into it?
Yeah, let's talk about that. This is super interesting to me because the first time we met at a WordCamp, I think it was probably the first time I kind of heard about what you were doing before you jumped into WordPress, and I was like, whoa, I don't really hear that kind of history from most people. But yeah, you just had a story come out in HeroPress about this. But why don't you tell people who may not have read that HeroPress article yet?
Heck yeah. And the thing is with those HeroPress articles, it was like, I was trying to condense it all into like 2,000 words. And I was like, man, if I just didn't pay attention to the words, I could have gone for like 6,000 and going down rabbit holes and all this other stuff. But I won't do that here.
We've got all day, man. We've got all day, so don't worry.
This records for how long? You said 6 hours? So 2.5 years ago, I was a firefighter paramedic for a city down here in Florida. Was doing that for, at that point, probably 6 years. I ended my career at 8 years. There was just some stuff I spoke briefly about it in the HeroPress article, but I was just kind of losing passion for that career. Also, I sustained a few injuries, back problems, abdominal problems, and I was like 27 at the time, and I was like, man, I'm falling apart. Like, how am I going to do this for another 13 years? Because the typical career for a firefighter is 20 years. A lot of people go further. But then I actually kind of stumbled upon HTML on a YouTube tutorial video.
Nice.
And I didn't even own a computer at this point. I was borrowing my wife's MacBook Air.
This is great.
And because it was like, it's a Saturday, I'm going to be bored at the station. Can I please borrow your computer? So I'm not just like sitting at the recliner doing nothing. And so I was like, surely it cannot be as easy as what I'm seeing to create a web page. And then so it was like H1, hello world, closing H1 tag.
I'm a coder. I did it.
I was like, oh my God. So this is everything? I was like, this is everything. Like everything I've been seeing on the web until this point is just these characters.
Yeah, you just type that over and over again, and then you have a beautiful website. That's how it works.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when it started hitting me to where I was like, oh my God, these are horrible. I'm seeing all these other beautiful websites, and I'm like, how are people doing this? And then I kept seeing WordPress, in the YouTube search bar. Then finally it was like, what the heck is this thing?
Nice. And so you're like a self-taught WordPress person. I think most people are pretty self-taught, and you kind of came in with the transition from kind of long time as a firefighter and kind of self-taught into moving into this new area. Yeah, pretty cool. I would love to rewind actually a little bit. I think a lot of people, and myself included, and I'm sure a lot of listeners, have had injuries before. I have had lower back issues before, and still a little bit here and there, but is that something that you'd still kind of deal with a little bit today? Did you do anything to help out with that? What do you think? Like, what are the things that you think were most helpful for that kind of stuff? Especially now that you're sitting behind a desk most of the day instead of fighting fires.
Yeah. So I hate to say this when I say I was lucky enough to be injured at my job, but all things considered, I was fortunate. 2 of the times threw my back out, it was while lifting a patient. You go to lift up the patient and you're about face level with them, and you just go, oh, and you have that look on their face and they're like, what? And I was like, nothing, don't worry about it. Just set them back down, have someone else. Okay. Yeah, you just walk bent over to the truck after that. And then another one, it was at a fire and I was taking a ladder off the truck. And, I had done this hundreds of times up until this point. And then just this one time, I wasn't paying attention, snatched the ladder off. And these things are like, I'd say 60 pounds or so, the full extension ladders. And I felt a pop. I was like, pop. And that was when the abdominal muscle went. It was one of those things where it's like, there's not much we can do for you. Kind of just take it easy, relax. And this actually happened right before my keynote talk. So I was actually out for probably a month or so before my keynote talk gave me some time to practice. Actually, unfortunately, I still deal with it today. Like I still get that pop every time I sneeze or cough or something like that. I just kind of brace myself a little bit.
Yeah. Back problems suck. It's really, I know a lot of people who have them, and it's not an easy thing to recover from. It's almost like there is no like real like certain way to go about it. Maybe everyone's issues are a little different. I'm sure they are. I've got like a lumbar like L4, L5 kind of lumbar spine, like somewhat slipped disc, which is very common. I mean, that's very common in terms of people who have lower back problems. I've tried a bunch of different stuff. From going to see a chiropractor has honestly helped. If I'm being honest, in a lot of senses, going to see a chiropractor is not something I would go for if it wasn't something that was like somewhat spinal. If it was like, something random hurts, like, let me align your spine, like that'll help that. I'm like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. But this has actually very much helped me. So I really have good things to say about it. But, strengthening my abdominals a little bit, actually like using my butt. I found out like recently how to actually activate my butt muscles, like my glutes, like, these are actual muscles I should use when I'm like, lifting things, like, learning these things, some hip flexibility stuff, all this stuff really helps. So I don't know. I'm sure there's some people listening out there who have dealt with this stuff before. So, maybe that stuff could be a little bit helpful. So you moved from being a firefighter, you've done some work in WordPress previously, and now you're going and really doing the full-time freelance thing. We've actually had a few people leave reviews for WPMRR podcast and emailed in the show and asked about freelance stuff. Just kind of wanting to know a little bit more about what it's like to go and try to be a successful freelancer. So you are a great guest for that, even though you're at the beginning of your journey. Actually, maybe even more so because you're at the beginning of your journey. Sometimes people like to hear people have been doing it for 10 years and they have all this experience, but I actually think it's really interesting to hear like what people are doing right now as kind of a beginner in the freelance space. So how have the first, month it's been like a month or so now, maybe a little bit shorter, a little longer, somewhere around there. How has it been starting out for you?
I think the most helpful thing would probably be honest, because, I would really like to be able to come on here and be able to say something that could help somebody else that's going through the same kind of things that I went through too. It feels like periods. Like you have a period where you're just like, there's nothing else that I would rather do than start my own business. And then you wake up one morning, it's like 6:30 and you're sitting there and you're like, did I really just tell my job that who is really happy with paying me money. Like they are totally fine with keeping me on and paying me a salary.
Yeah.
And I just told these people, like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do my own thing. You get flooded with those what ifs, some anxieties where you're just like, man, I really don't know where that next paycheck is kind of coming from. Mm-hmm. And so it really feels like that. It feels like you're just coming in and out of phases, and then slowly just started executing things. So one of the big things for me was I had this huge task and list of things that I needed to get done to be able to launch my business and, do it properly. And so I just started taking little bits per day. And I'm like, I'm going to accomplish this tiny bit a day. And I know I'm not the first one to try that. I learned from other people that.
Whoa, what a novel idea. Yeah.
And so it was one of those things where I just kept acting. Maybe I didn't know where this was going, but you know what? I'm going to act. And I kept doing it, and those periods of what am I doing kept getting smaller. And those periods of I couldn't see myself doing anything but this kept growing. I wouldn't say that I'm out of the woods. There's still definitely mornings when I wake up and I'm like, you're not a business owner, buddy. You are a worker bee. But just keep getting up, keep acting.
Yeah, man, I think that's really important. I mean, I have a bunch of what you just said really resonated with me. As someone who kind of runs a semi-successful business at this point, I think a lot of people
hella
say
successful. What are you talking about?
Okay, whatever. But people say, I think some people see me and our business and say like that. Joe must be really happy doing that every day because it's so successful. Like, if I'm being honest, like yesterday, I was a little bit down on stuff of the business because I was just like having one of those days. Like, it doesn't go away just because some things end up going right. And, you build something, you always have those thoughts with you. And then today, we actually did our first WP Buffs webinar today. And again, Kaylin ran our this webinar, and it was actually fantastic. And I was super, super like happy today. So these things go in waves. It always happens. And the thought of like, what am I doing? I think that at WordCamp Miami, we were hanging out at WordCamp Miami actually, and Chris Lemma was on a panel there, and one of the things he said, I forget what the exact question was, and I actually forget what his exact answer was, but the gist of the answer was, life's chaos, like building a business is chaos, like this is not something that is just going to be easy. That is what it is, and at the end of the day, if you can control some of that chaos, you can be successful. So whether you're just starting out and where you are right now, when you're 5 years in and you're a hyper successful freelancer, like you'll still have a lot of these thoughts. And so I think a lot of people can find solace in that.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So starting off, you talked about kind of doing a little bit, kind of had this list of things you had to get ready to do to like, really jump into freelancing. I like to think of that as kind of like, if you can like get 1% better every day, like that's huge. That's everything. If you can take one step forward every day, 2 steps forward one day, 1 step backward the next day, that's okay. You're moving forward. What are some of the things, like the biggest things or the biggest hurdles you've had to handle, like jumping in to really try and push freelancing forward, especially at this beginning, like startup grind, like part of the freelancing? What are those big task items you were trying to knock out?
So it's very interesting. There was a lot of things that I realized were perceived large items. I'm going down the list. I've got a list of like 100 things, and I'm like, this is a big one. Like forming my LLC, I was like, this is going to be huge. Like I got to file with the state, like all of this other stuff. And then the closer you get to these huge perceived tasks that you've got to do, you realize how tiny they are or how easy it is to just push right through them. And it may be different for me because I had a lot of mental blocks that I was, pushing through. Like I said, like, oh my gosh, LLC. Oh my goodness. It took all of about 30 minutes to knock that out.
Yeah. A lot of times that mental state of starting something is the hardest part. It's like, man, this is going to take hours. Like, I just don't even want to start it. So you push it off another day and then another day. But if you actually got around to just go, like, do it. Just do it. That was fast. A lot. And that's a lot of cases that happens.
Well, and it's interesting you say that because that's kind of how I brought down the little pieces. Because when I looked at that huge thing, I would be like, man, look at all this stuff I got to do. I should play video games. I would take off.
Woo.
Yep. I was like, yeah, that looks like a lot of work. I'm going to go play Fallout for a couple of hours. And then, but when I did those little pieces, I was like, no, I'll just knock this out in 20 minutes and then go play Fallout. And then look at that. I spent 2 hours on it and got a whole bunch accomplished.
Nice.
But yeah, no, some of the big stuff was getting a personal site launched and not being super upset with it. I am not proud of my website at this point. But you need something functional. You need to be able to take in leads and, get your stuff out there. So I've had to change that. That's a work in progress. That's not an arrival place that you get to. So site, coming up with like booking software. That was, and see, I'm a systems person coming from my year as a support tech. It was like, no, we have, workflows, and you do the workflow every time, and then you slowly tweak workflows, and then it gets better. So when I came into like things like bringing on leads through a CRM or generating invoices or something like that, I immediately started systematizing everything. So then, I have this follow through that I do. So that was a big one for me. And then kind of just facing the unknown, where it's like, I really don't have any leads right now, and I don't know where those are going to come from. But, I'll just work at it till they start pouring in.
Yeah, that's the right attitude, man. And we've talked about this. We talked about this a little bit in Miami, and kind of at previous WordCamps and such. But the fact that you've been doing WordPress here for a little while, and you're starting to have a good network in the WordPress space, is just like going to be super helpful for you starting as a freelancer. Like if you just came into WordPress like as a total WordPress noob and wanted to start freelancing, that'd be really hard. Like that would be enormously difficult. But the fact that you can kind of lean on some of the relationships you already have to say like, hey, like I'm starting to do freelance. Hey, you guys have like 10 hours a week of contract work that you need done. Like, oh yeah, I can do that. How about over here? Like it helps with both financial support and as you continue to build your skill set working on different stuff. So I think that going to WordCamps, going to local meetups, like building that network. I struggle talking about this a little bit because I don't like traditional networking. Like I don't like go to like hand out business cards and like do speed dating to like meet 100 people in like 100 minutes. Like that kind of stuff. I don't think is very effective. But there are definitely communities in which like networking, quote unquote, is just kind of hanging out and talking with people. Like that's how we met, right? It was like networking, quote unquote, but we just like met and was like, what's up? Okay, cool. We're friends now. Like it wasn't like a business arrangement. It was just like, you meet people and become close and friends with people. And then, hey, like maybe there's some synergy there to, do some work together. So yeah, WordPress community. Yeah.
And it's funny you say that because when I was growing up, my stepfather was in the local Chamber of Commerce. And, this was like turn of millennium, like 2000s, like early 2000s. Type era, and it was heavy that where it's like, oh yes, here's my business card, let me judge your business card, and if we have any prospects we'll get back to you. And it was one of those where it was like I didn't dislike that, and I please don't take that as a knock to a Chamber of Commerce or any.
Everyone here who's part of a Chamber of Commerce is like, wow, Sam, that asshole.
Turn him off. We'll try again next week, Joe. But no, it was one of those things where it's like, I did personally want something different. I wanted to be able to build relationships and have friends. And you know what? If stuff came out of it, that's totally fine too. But the friendships were the number one, the push for all of this WordCamp stuff. So
yeah, totally. I think it can be funny too when you do prioritize that. It's funny how some business opportunities just kind of happen to fall from that. Like you kind of realize like you actually should be like going to like make friends and be friendly with people just to like make new acquaintances and to do that, because that's where most of the business happenings happen to fall through. Most people want to work with people they want to work with. Did I say that right? Most people want to work with people who they want to work with. Yeah, that makes sense, right? You want to work with people who you engage with just on a personal level. I think most people would agree with that. So if that comes first, then the rest can kind of drip down from that. Dude, you mentioned Fallout. Are you a gamer of sorts?
So I wouldn't say that I'm a heavy gamer, especially now that I started probably in October, November, I really started hitting the dev stuff hard. And so all of my free time was kind of getting sapped up with all of that. But I do like a lot of RPGs. I really like the Fallout series. I know people are losing their minds over 76, but I rather enjoy the
76 game. A new game? I don't know what that is.
So it was I'll touch on this briefly, but the Fallout series.
Brief segue.
The Fallout series was a beautiful role-playing game with so many dynamic storylines and everything. With this last release, they kind of kept that, but they made it an entirely multiplayer experience where, everybody jumps on a server and they all interact with each other.
Nice.
And that was such a deviation from the normal release that, the game comes out with. And man, the diehards were losing it. But yeah,
nice.
Funny, really funny how we went there. But
I just ask. I don't do as much gaming anymore, but I was like a big time in high school. Like I was like in the like LAN party crew. Like we got like threw on like Halo, like original Halo, and there was no online, so you got 2 Xboxes and you like hooked them in through the LAN, and you just played on 2 TVs. 1 team of 4 over here, 1 team of 4 over there. Man, those are the days.
God, so those were like the best weekends growing up.
yeah, dude. Yeah, you order some pizzas. My dad would order like Stromboli. All my high school friends are like Strombolis. Like every time I see them, like Stromboli's pizza, because my dad would always order Stromboli's pizza, and we'd all just be playing video games. So good.
Yeah, then it's 4 a.m. and you're like, where? What? Yeah. I guess we'll sleep for a couple hours. I don't know.
Yep. Totally, man. Cool. Well, I enjoyed that tangent very much. What were we talking about? Freelance-ish things?
Oh yeah, and like WordCamps and relationships and stuff. I was surprised, when we were talking about friendships as opposed to, leads or, acquaintances or whatever. It's different when you transfer into doing something on your own. It's different to think that you have people in your corner as opposed to people that are just like, oh yeah, I know Sammy's starting up a business. And the overwhelming support that I got after WordCamp Miami, telling everybody about this launch and everything was awesome. It really did feel like, like I've got 50 people behind me pushing me forward and helping me out and, showing me where to go and where not to go. So. Yeah,
man. I remember that too. It was like magical almost. Like we were hanging out a lot that weekend, and it was like everyone was like, Sam's doing this, like Sam's doing that. Like, how do we help Sam? Like, and it was like really, it was like so cool, like to see that happening. And that it doesn't happen if you don't aren't there and part of the community and give to others and help others. And it does help you back. It may not be immediate, but yeah, man, that was super cool. I'm so like as a business owner, for me, sometimes it can be difficult to separate these things. I'm always very much trying to do what we talk about and really like value relationships and to value the friendships I make. And I know I do that, but as our business has grown, there have been times where I've had to start like having more serious business conversations and like really like kind of get to the point more and like yes. What kind of partnership are we really talking about here? Like now we're having these more like in-depth and detailed conversations. And honestly, it feels like sometimes I have more to lose now than I did when, we were, a small business of like 3 or 4 people. Right now, it's like I feel like consequences are bigger for mistakes. So sometimes I feel like I can lose that a little bit sometimes because I feel a little bit more pressure to like sustain and grow what we already have. And so sometimes I feel like I can lose a little bit of that, like, friendship stuff. Sometimes I feel like I'm more like very focused on like what's the deal here, or like what's the relation? How does this relationship benefit me? Yeah. I don't always want to, but sometimes it just kind of happens. So
it's necessary. And people that if you're surrounded with the right people, they understand that as well. They're just like, oh hey, yeah, there is time to cut up. The guy I work with, Ben Meredith. I mean. It is really hard to get us focused sometimes in these meetings.
Yeah, I can't imagine working with Ben. That must be a hoot.
Oh man, it's nothing but poking and prodding. But then there's times where Matt's corralling us in, and you just got to flip the switch, and it's like, yeah, we're talking business now. We're not talking about the fact that it's Ben's birthday again.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's a lot of my job now is really just like putting people on the right path and like letting them go down the path. But like I help people to find that path. So yeah. And it's Ben's birthday today. Do you know that's Ben's birthday today?
Shoot. I'm pretty sure it's Ben's birthday today. Yeah, I think it was Ben's birthday yesterday too.
Yeah. I think, you know what? I think when this episode comes out, the day it comes out, well, actually any day that anybody listens to this episode, it's actually going to be Ben's birthday. So Ben is at Ben UNC on Twitter, at BENUNC. So like, feel free to wish him a happy birthday because it's definitely his birthday today, whatever day you're listening to this.
Oh yeah. Did you see that it was his actual birthday the other day?
Oh no, did I actually miss it? Oh no. Yes. So the site says happy birthday. It's not my birthday today.
And it's got, who's the actor that plays Doctor Who? He's standing in the rain crying.
I don't know. That's so
because
good.
it says it's not his birthday.
Oh my God. Pretty epic. For people who are very confused right now, you got to go to WordCamps. You got to get some of these inside jokes. They're very funny.
It's the better part.
I don't know if I've talked to anybody on the show about WordCamp organizing before. Well, let's dive into that a little bit. What's I know you're not lead organizer, but that's cool. What's what's your role and what's the planning process look like, and what stage you at?
Ooh, gosh, I don't even really know what my role is right now. It was kind of like, hey,
I hear this a lot. This is not new.
Yeah, it's kind of be like last year was like organizer wrangler, and it wasn't. It was just just helping out the sponsor wrangler, which is fine. It was cool. I got to see the ins and outs of that. And then I think they're going to be switching it up on me. I'm kind of the gopher right now.
Gotcha.
So, if an email comes through or something, they can assign it to me or make a call or do it. I'm just trying to be available. If they need anything, I'll take care of it.
Yeah, this seems like a lot of WordCamp organizing. It's like just making sure you're being flexible enough to like a few different things. Like things got to be handled, and there's all sorts of stuff that needs to happen. So yeah, I did a little bit of at WordCamp US. I went to Contributor Day and was at I forget what the area was. I don't think it was like WordCamps. It was like community, I guess. But I was trying to put some documentation together with a few people about like for first time organizers actually. So I've actually done a little bit of that, but it actually it like got me motivated to like maybe I want to like do more like because DC has a lot of challenges throwing on DC, and I was like maybe I should just like go and like be the head lead organizer of DC, and that thought lasted about half an hour, and then I was like, oh, that's After going through all that documentation, I was like, oh shit, there's like a lot. Like this is a enormous responsibility. Like so, yeah, it's a lot for sure.
Yeah, you look at David Bissett every year, and you're like, man, that guy he's running 1,000,000 miles an hour everywhere that whole weekend. You really try not to speak to him because he's probably doing something super important.
That is true. I know. It's like I talked to him for 10 seconds. I'm like, I can't talk to him anymore. I'm taking up too much of his time. But I look at David now and I'm like, maybe I should organize a WordCamp. Like I'd be super fit if I organized a WordCamp. Yeah.
That you see that kind of that thing going around the community right now. You see Nathan and how much weight he's lost.
No, I haven't seen that. Nathan as well?
Nathan Ingram. Yeah, he just posted the other day that he was I think he broke the 180 mark. And
wow.
I think he was around the 250, 260 or something like that. He mentions it on his Twitter. I think he was able to do it with like mostly diet. I was so freaking proud of him, man.
I did see him recently. No, I did see him there, and he looks, great. I forgot that I was Nathan, though. Yeah, man. I love that the community rallies around these people because you see it on Twitter and like so many likes and retweets, and then like you see people at WordCamps, like amazing. Like I feel like the WordPress community is so supportive of that, which is dope.
Yeah, when I released the HeroPress article, like I lost my mind when I saw the analytics behind like everything that took place with that. Because I'm like a mild data nerd. I'm sitting in bed, scrolling on my phone. I'm telling my wife, I'm like, look, another 100 impressions or whatever. I was stoked.
Yeah. It's fun to see when things start taking off a little bit. You're like, ooh, like I'm digging this.
Oh, it's funny on that real quick. So Topher hits me up, and this was like a couple of hours right after it had been released. And he didn't tell me this when we first started. He's like, hey, are you in the back end of a WordPress site right now? And I was like, yeah, I'm in the back of a client site. Why? He was doing this over Slack. And he was like, do you see anything there? And I was like, hey, my stories in the news, like this story, is this on every WordPress site? And he's like, yeah, about a third of the internet's looking at you right now. And I was like, I couldn't like pay attention for like 20 minutes.
Wait, go back. What do you mean? Is like HeroPress stuff like pushed out through WordPress dashboards everywhere?
Heck yeah, dude. I was blown away. Yeah,
dude.
It's just in the news article, like it has the feed, and then underneath it there's different articles to things. And HeroPress releases are part of that.
Whoa. That's dope. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, so like my face melted. I was like, I'm in the back end of how many millions of sites right now.
Yeah. Even if you get like a 0.01% click-through rate, it's like, oh, that's like hundreds of thousands visitors. Like, oh, shit, that's cool.
Yeah.
Love that, man. Cool. All right. Well, we talked about some freelance stuff. We talked about community stuff. I like digging into things that people feel like they're nerds about. I feel whenever I talk about my nerddom about, I could do all sorts of stuff. I'm a big like sci-fi fan. Like I love anything science and like space and all that stuff. But you mentioned you're a little bit of a data nerd or a analytics nerd. I think I like kind of am, but not to the extent that I would call myself that, because I don't feel like I'm super knowledgeable in that area. Because like Google Analytics is like, I'm cool with that. Like I don't need anything like super fancy. But what does your nerddom look like when it comes to analytics things, all things analytics?
What the depth of that knowledge is probably the shallow end of the pool. See, I love the stuff, like I've got the hot jar stuff running.
Oh yeah, me too. I love it.
Some data analytics stuff, and I actually I subcontract for a agency in town called Data Driven Labs.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're doing a WP Buffs webinar here in a couple months.
What? That is awesome. So I've got this wealth of knowledge at my fingertips when it comes to data stuff. I got a little bit into like the data studio, where you can pull in the information, the pie charts and stuff like that. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world once he showed me that. But no, Chris and Sandy, who run Data Driven Labs.
Yep.
They actually were the ones that, I think I even mentioned that in the article, that they gave me my start. I was just a dude coming to meetups and they were like, hey, you want to kind of get paid for some of this? On the inside, you're kind of like, I'm having a freak out. I'm sorry. I just whacked the crap out of the mic.
I do that all the time. Boom.
Hey, you wake, bam.
Yeah.
But no, and on the outside, you're like completely stoic, and you're like, yeah, I think that would be a good fit, relationship wise.
Stay calm.
Hey, I need to go to the bathroom. Actually, I just need to leave this room for just a minute.
Yeah, it's like in the Martian. It's there's that scene where the head of NASA is like, they've realized he's alive on Mars, and he tells this random engineer like, we need satellite coverage, for every rolling every 3 minutes. And in the movie, she just says like, yeah, sure, like no problem. But in the book, she's like, I had no idea at all how to do this, but all I could say was, sure, I'll get it done. So yeah, same thing.
See, I really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah. It was really good. It was really good. Surprisingly good. And I find a very interesting story behind actually the book that was written, because it was very much crowdsourced. It was very much, who's the guy who wrote it? I'll look it up. But the book itself, it has so much science and craziness in it. And it's actually pretty, there may be places where it stretches a little bit, but overall it's a pretty realistic telling of it. Yeah, Andy Weir, he's the guy who wrote it, but very much crowdsourced. He didn't know a lot of this stuff, and he had to, I believe, talk to a bunch of different people and get, opinions from all these different scientists and stuff about how this would work or how that would work and how does this chemistry work, and eventually, just like the guy in the movie, solve one problem, solve another problem, and eventually you get home.
Shoot. And so you would definitely recommend the book then?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The book's really good. Highly recommended. Even if you've seen the movie already, the book, it's one of those vacation reads, I think. I like to think of it as, it's like, I would love to have it sitting on the beach or, hanging out in the wood cabin or something. So yeah, very good.
Yeah. And I am also a fan of the young Matthew Damon. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very nice. Cool, man. This has been real. We're going to go in for a little while here, so maybe time to start wrapping up. But I appreciate you hopping on, man. This has been a lot of fun. Always good to chat. It was funny, right? We were recording this podcast. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I got to get in my podcast mode. I'm going to go do a podcast. I don't know what that means, but I'm got my podcast mindset on or whatever. But for this one, I was like, I'm just getting on and talk with Sam. It feels like just a casual conversation. So let's finish off. Why don't you tell people where they can find you online? I don't know, website or Twitter, or I don't know where you do your online activity.
My stuff. So I like to hang out on Twitter quite a bit at GSamSmith. I can be found online at gsamsmith.com. And I'm on Slack somewhere. You can find me on make.wordpress. So,
yep, there you go. I know you tried just to get samsmith.com or just at Sam Smith. But for some reason, that was a handle on that site. We're
It's all snapped up, man. I don't understand it.
Who is this Sam Smith? I don't know. Yeah, if you listen to any music, you probably know already. But yeah, one and the same.
I'm gonna get a cease and desist letter in the mail someday.
Yeah, right. I got the
They
G.
stop being you.
Yeah, right. Cool, man. Yep, gsamsmith.com. If you're looking for some freelance help, if you're looking for some WordPress support, G Sam Smith is the place to go. He's on Twitter. Go check him out. The last thing I always ask guests to do on the show or request of them is to ask our audience if they would please leave a 5-star review on iTunes. So you want to give them a little ask here?
Yeah. So I understand that you can only do 5 stars. When you're thinking in your mind, like I could do 20, I could do 25, just hit that 5. It'll let people know. And, I'm sure there's a comment section. You can put like, hey, I would put 25 or 30. But yeah, definitely leave a review. That's how we know you like this stuff.
Yes, the good old 25-star review. If you can hack into iTunes and give us a 25-star review, that would be excellent. Yeah. You can give us that review anytime. We actually have a redirect. If you just go to wpbuffs.com/iTunes, it brings everything up for you. So it makes it a little bit easier if you want to leave us a review. If you have any questions for the show, you can shoot them into us. And to me personally, just yo@wpmrr.com. I answer that inbox pretty frequently, so you can always feel free to reach me there. WPMRR video course around selling care plans. If you're an agency or a freelancer like Sam, feel free to check out the video course. We have a 30% discount on there right now, so you can go ahead and check it out. Otherwise, we will catch y'all next week. Sam, thanks again for hopping on.
Thanks, Joe.